had 2 weeks ago, in which we gave the other recipient a scholarship in terms of finances, but I'm grateful. And you met me before, I guess, at the awards assembly at Elkton High School. And now I just want to say a few things about you. We'll take a picture with you, and then you can say goodbye to us. Anyhow, Cheyenne graduates from Elkton High School. She plans to attend North Carolina A&T College. I believe that's in North. Is it in North? North Carolina A&T? Greensboro. I had one of them mixed up. Maybe I'm thinking North Carolina College. But anyhow, she graduated 44 in a class of 232. And she, like the other recipient, had a lot of rigor to her academic schedule, because not only did she take the normal courses that she had to take, but she also took honors classes. And also you had AP classes, which equal to college. So, you know, during her time at Elkton High School was not just play and entertainment, but she was an academic student in addition to other activities that she was involved in. And certainly we're glad to have you here today. We want to have the mayor to give you a little scholarship offering. And we would like to take a picture with you, if that's okay. And that's her mother in the back. She wants to come on. All right.
Come on up here. We're gonna put you right here in front of the We Are Elkton. Put you right there. All smiles.
She wants to take a picture. She can take it.
There's your very large check. Come on up here. All smiles. All right. Are we ready? Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also our scholarship stipulate that you must live in Elkton, so she lives on Glen Creek, so she is in the proper town of Elkton. Thank you and.
Good luck.
All right. All right, Lou, you have the certified seal street sweeping contract renewal?
Yes, of course, Certified Seal's been working for the town for some time. And they do a great job, you know, sweeping the streets and everything. They have a machine. But we have a little issue this time because they have asked for a increase in the sweeping, and that increase will go from 120 to 135 an hour, which equates to about $7,800 a year. And we only have budgeted the 120 an hour. So I would ask the board, I'm not sure where we're headed on this right now, so I'd ask the board to just make a tentative decision to accept them, but I'll have to do some negotiation with them to get that down to the budgeted amount of money that we have set aside for this particular contract.
Well, listen, I know that you'll do your best at negotiating, but how's the board feel in general if we could find the increase?
How long have we done business with them?
It's doing a good job.
Yeah.
10?
Like more than
20,
10.
30,
Yeah,
40 years.
yeah, it's a long time.
And then any issues,
Yes, sir.
we can.
How do you feel?
Doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, we can find it in our budget. Yeah. But I think the negotiations first.
All right, Lou, it's on you.
Thank you.
All right. But we're good with it. All right, Dan Hanley, you wanted to give your recommendation on the road restoration project.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. For the road restoration project, project number 2024-001, we had 2 bidders. We had the engineers review it, and they concur. The Dix Hollow is the go bidder. In addition to the West High Street project, looking at the budget that we have, we're also going to add the Bell Hill project as well. So this year's road restoration project, we recommend giving to the panel bidder 6 Hollow Contracting. The price for both projects together is $247,580. The price for the other contract, Finley, who bid it, was $263,661.10. So we recommend to go with 6 Hollow Contracting, the amount of $247,580.
All righty. Luke, we're taking action since it was advertised. Yeah, we have a motion to accept the recommendation that Dan just presented.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, next you have the, stormwater management, let's see, grass cutting and stormwater management bonds.
As I provided to the board, we got basically, you asked for the in-house cost and the out-of-pocket cost for the contracting services. We agreed the two numbers between the two apparent bidders, the weekly cost between Bay Country Services and Ivy Hill. Bay Country per cut per week would be $86.50, and the weekly cost for Ivy Hill would be $11,149.18. We also ran some additional numbers thinking what we recommend. We feel might be 18, 20 weeks left in the contract and everything. What we're really asking for the board is, with your permission, we'd like to go into contract with Bay Country to actually kind of help us augment the cuttings that we need to do. Then, then including the common spaces and then the stormwater management ponds themselves. And then we come back, we can actually reevaluate in the plan, we can show some actual numbers to see going forward, if it makes sense to contract everything out and hire the same two people that we best. So Ryan McQueen's here. He's got any questions about the numbers, which we kind of ran through. If there's anything, we're able to answer your questions.
Real quickly, what was the Bay Country, figure, for that window, the total amount?
Total amount, if we based on what's left, the 18 weeks which are left, we think that was going to be about 155,700. The actual bid itself was 242,200 for 28 weeks, but because of droughts and because of what we're trying to maintain, we're trying to cut the number back. And the other thing we'd like to remind the board is just, we contracted things out, but the in-house, we still have all the bigger areas. We have Meadow Park, East Meadow Park, we have Marina Park, we have Elk Landing, we also have Howard's Pond as well. So all the big areas we're still maintaining. So we still have guys cutting that grass as well. It's just the ponds and all the other common spaces we can't get to.
The one question that I had, you had the stormwater management ponds cutting them, twice per month.
Right, bi-weekly.
Is that something that could be, I mean, right now, are we cutting them twice a month
We're,
or cutting around them?
yeah, this year we have not, due to our staffing, we haven't been able to really maintain them very well at all. We're right now with the grass a little bit on the drier side. We've just started to get, back into them. When we were, fully staffed, at the beginning of the season, we were just getting into them. And then, for about the last 5 weeks, we really haven't been in them. So this past week, thankfully, it's been a little drier. So we've started to get into, started out with some of the bigger ones, and addressing them. But, normally in the past, what we had done is, during the early part of the season, when it's wet, a lot of those, a good portion of them, you really can't get in those ponds. It's, it's too dangerous, with the slopes, with the bottoms wet, you end up getting stuck in them. So, early on in the year, depending on, somewhere around, April, toward the end of April, we try to get in them, get a cut on them. Once it starts raining heavily, then we got to back off for a little while. But after that, once it gets into, June, then we kind of get caught back up. And what we try to do is we try to go into them every week, especially when you get into the drier season, then you get caught up on some of those areas that you just can't get to.
Yeah.
On average, I would say we were in there cutting them probably about 3 weeks out of the month somewhere, give or take. But you know, we managed them, we knew what we had, so when we couldn't get in them, we knew, okay, well, we gotta try to get in the next week, it's too wet, and, you know, we have to let it go, or we got as much as we could, the landings up top, we would at least get them when it starts getting to the slopes, depending on the pond, you know, that gets a little bit, dicey, you know, when they're wet, so.
Well, listen, how's the board feel? I mean, my gut feeling, I'd like to give Bay Country a shot. They were the low bidder.
Yes,
I'd like to give them a shot on some of those spots and see how they perform. How do you guys feel?
So they'll take over the stormwater management completely.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
and the open areas, we would continue to do, you know, about just under 60 acres, which would be, you know, Meadow Park East and West, Howard's Pond, Elk Landing, Marina, and Marina, I'm sorry, yeah, Marina Park as well, which totals out, you know, just under 60 acres. That we give them the rest
For
of the year.
two staff.
Correct. Yeah, we use there we can use the large area, you know, back one or that we use, and then the other person would do the tight areas that, you know, we call it trimming them out.
Are those, back to work, or are they both working?
Yeah.
And do you believe that this will give us enough time to feel if this is a direction that we could go or can't go?
Absolutely, yes.
I think it's worth a shot.
We're fortunate because Tamika helped us with the cost and all that stuff, because we've gotten into, you know, a lot of good details, that kind of stuff, so we're fairly, we can actually make it, you know, good executive.
Yeah, I really appreciate Tamika, the work that you put into this.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very helpful moving forward. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
When do they start?
You have her email address?
Yeah, realistically, by the time we get contracts and everything, last week of June, maybe July 1st or something like that, that's why I kind of, yeah, it's a lot of things you have to do.
Fortunately, as far as their staffing goes, I've spent a good bit of time, you know, with them. They have plenty of staff there, and for this, they're, you know, they're right down the road. It's efficient for them as well.
And during the RFP process itself, we actually went with Bay Country with the bubble bidder, so I think we spent like 6-7 hours, so everything they cut, they saw, so there's no surprise, so we actually went through every single area.
We have a motion.
So-
We got a motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let's move forward with the Bay Country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the only other comment I would make, and it was, I think that, we still have two folks on the grass cutting crew.
Yes.
Dan, I would, and Brian, hey, let's take a look at maybe getting one of those robot powered, mowers, see if we can get a demo for areas like Meadow Park. That might be a piece of cake, you know. I don't understand that technology, but I see it's happening all across the country.
Yeah, we've looked at, those in the past, primarily when we looked at them, it was, you know, the ponds with the slopes, but there's, yeah, since then, that was probably a number of years ago. That's
Yeah, they've changed.
7 years ago.
Take a look, see if you can get us a demo. It may not work for us on all the different terrains we have, but maybe it might.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have ordinance 5-2024, waiving of major facility fees. Lou, do you need to introduce that, or?
You know, the board has been provided a copy of it, by email, and there's a copy there. All I need is the board to approve the, introduction of it, and then we'll bring it up at the July 3rd meeting for adoption.
Yeah, so this is the introduction for this. This is exactly what we did a couple years ago, waiving the fees. So this would be, I'd like to see us introduce it, and then, you know, we have a discussion time between now and July 3rd to twist this thing around, or vote in favor or not in favor of it. But I'd like to at least get it introduced so we can get additional comments from the public as well as from staff and so forth.
Is this correct, page 3?
What's that again?
Page 3,
Page 3 is ordinance 5-2024, is that what it says? Yep.
Is it Southfield Special Tax District?
Let's see here, which,
You have an old version. The newest version should be on your desk.
it's highlighted,
Yeah. Incorrect.
yeah, you got it highlighted on page 3.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I don't think that needs to be in there.
Oh, okay. That's, that, you can accept it for introduction with the amendment that does no longer apply. It's only Southfields. I mean, Southfields is excluded from that. I thought it must, I thought I had taken that out. And when it's, submitted for adoption, it won't be in there. It'll be submitted as, because it's for all residential development in the town of Elkton, not just Southfields.
So even though that's there, Michelle, would you reflect that in your notes that was removed?
Yeah, that'll be excluded.
Okay, so do we
I
have
thought I
a,
went over that 10 times.
do we have a motion to accept ordinance 5-2024 as amended? This is for the whole town, not for one specific
Right.
project,
Doesn't-
and, this is for introduction only.
So it was a little-
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, why don't you just briefly give a synopsis of what the waiving of major facilities are?
Yeah.
For those people who talk to you in the street, people who are here, and people who might be online. Take a couple minutes.
Yes, absolutely. So waiving of the major facility fees, the town of Elkton asks anyone that builds whether it's a house or a bathroom into your home, we require a hookup fee to hook into our service. So that could be, if you were adding a new bathroom onto your house, you would have to pay an additional $15,000 for that hookup to build that additional room onto your house. If you wanted to build a new single-family home, it's $15,000. So it's a waiver of this fee for a period of 2 years until the end of my term, which will be on, let's see, I guess the end of my term would be June 30th, right?
That's a lot of foresight you have. I think I heard that about 15 times.
Maybe. So it'll be at the end of my term, so we, if the next mayor and board wants to move forward with this, they could. But I believe it's a economic stimulus tool. It'll allow people to do things that they hadn't done in the past, that maybe that fee has been a burden to them. And, it'll allow us to collect additional real estate property taxes on assessments that may or may not have ever happened. And I want to stress that major facility fees is one of those things that I've always said that if you were building a house, no matter where you built, and you have if Delmarva Power, for example, said, hey, we're going to hit you with a $15,000 connection fee, how would we all feel also? That makes any sense. So to me, it's a utility. We have the product. The dollars will be generated into the general fund. On major facility money, that money is used for water and sewer infrastructure only. Anything else you want me to add?
No, good.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we introduce this today, when would we vote on it?
We would vote on it on July 3rd.
Are we having a meeting next week on the Juneteenth?
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
we canceled it because of Lewis's birthday is next.
that's all right. So when you talk about discussing it with staff, because I keep asking for a capital improvement plan, at least a projection of what we could possibly might need these funds for, especially looking at the discussion coming up on a new well. How does that give us time to patch it up, so to speak?
Well, we'll have between now and, let's see, that gives us 7, 14, 15, 16, 17 days. We could even push it back another 7 days if you wanted, or another 2 weeks to the 17th of July, it really wouldn't matter to me.
Like maybe
So-
the 10th, something.
Yeah,
I would appreciate that just so that I could request, a little bit more information from
Yep.
town staff.
I would agree. So let's push the vote back on this, Lou, till July 10th, the final vote, if it gets approved for introduction. Any other questions, Gene?
Not to amend it.
Yes.
So that it goes in.
We'll amend it to, the vote on July 10th.
Yes.
We had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye for introduction.
Okay, it's only for introduction. Thank you. All right, next up, we have, Chip, what's your time schedule like? I know you wanted to be part of this. Let me see where Chip is.
I'm here.
Hey, do you have enough time if we go through the train station first and then the update on the Elkton Alliance? You want to move the Elkton Alliance up?
Well, I have to leave for an appointment about 1:15. So
A quarter after one?
yeah.
Oh, okay, we got time. I gotta leave too, so I think we'll be okay. Well, let's go ahead and do it. Elkton Alliance, are you ready? Okay, we're gonna run through the Elkton Alliance here really quick, Chip.
Okay.
We've made pretty good time here. We only got 2 more items. So far, so good, because I know we got MTA is up next, and then Ryan and Luigi will be,
Finishing with the bank.
what's that? I got a plane to catch. Yeah, I'm just taking the back. I can take. Is that your key?
How long you going for?
I'll be back 5. Just coming in for a meeting tomorrow. Yeah.
Right, sorry, technology, yay. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for your time. As we stated in our presentation last week, Elkton Alliance Inc. Design Committee wishes to support the community's transformation by assisting in the enhancement of the physical and visual elements of downtown while capitalizing on the unique assets that set the commercial district apart. Today, we wish to share with you areas in the downtown business district in need of attention. With your permission, I'd like to review the report with the PowerPoint presentation.
Fire away.
Alrighty. So our report includes the following. We've identified a property location and the building owner if known, the date reported, the property issue with photos and code violation numbers as cited by the current Elkton Town Building Codes and the 2012 International Property Maintenance Code, which is cited on the website of the town. So please note that the committee is in the early stages of this process and has not approached any of the property or business owners, as our desire is to present this directly to you, the mayor and commissioners. We start off with 101 West Main Street, and we noted that this is an eyesore with safety issues, blight, vermin, fencing is haphazard and contributing to the overall negative aesthetic of the property, and we've noted the code violations. On page 2 here, we have some pictures that in an effort to mitigate the blight, we're suggesting that to improve the appearance of the property, we included these images showcasing ways to decrease the negative impact on the town's business district. This first image was taken in Oxford around the area where their devastating fire took place and has been cleaned up. And the second image was found on the internet with the cloth over it. It helps kind of give a more pleasing aesthetic to the area. 104 West Main Street. we've
You know,
got
can I
our-
interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
Hey, Dan, real quickly, could you get some geotech material and wrap around that fence?
Into it, sure.
Thank you.
In stock, yeah, that's.
The town currently pays $2,000 for that fence. We've paid 4,000 some so far.
Yeah, I was just saying, you know, that geotech material is where you can't see in on it. It's actually pretty inexpensive and it's pretty durable and we could, probably do 2 wraps around the, fencing if it's feasible. But it's really not a lot of money and it would block that.
Okay.
Doesn't come in the beautiful blue.
That is a really pretty blue.
It was. Thank you.
All right, so we've got unkempt awnings at 104 West Main Street. This is general upkeep of the municipal stairway. So basically inviting people to come to our town. We want that place to look neat and upkept. 106 West Main Street, we've got mold on the walls and the paint is peeling. 112 West Main Street, we've got mold and brick on that side also on the brick and peeling paint. There's a safety hazard at 114 West Main with looks like a railing that got left down and it's jagged metal sticking out. So that needs to be handled. 113 West Main, now this is no code violation, but it's empty signage, and this was noted by one of the committee members as it appears to be a vacant property. And there is a business in there, so we believe that a sign would help mediate that. 120 West Main Street, the empty metal awnings are an eyesore, and there's dead birds in the windows. We were told during Cinco de Mayo that somebody said the birds were slapping against the windows as they were walking up the street, and that was very upsetting to that visitor to our town. This is, again, another suggestion for like an empty window that I pulled these images off the internet, where you can paint the inside of the window, do some art, you know, something that makes it more pleasing and looks less, you know, empty downtown. So those are just some suggestions. 123 West Main Street, badly chipping paint, rotting window frames. 132 West Main Street, untended weeds and landscaping. 138 West Main Street, more badly peeling paint on buildings and window frames. 129 West Main Street, crumbling steps present a danger. 152 West Main Street, busted awnings, again, empty signage. I know there's not a business in there right now, but that does look pretty bad. 154 West Main Street, we've got a rotting porch awning and badly chipping paint. 166 West Main Street, this one really surprised us. A broken window, you can see one of our committee members is putting her arm through the window so you can see the glass is broken out. The repairs, I guess they tried to do, that wood is rotting away. So this is really a blight, and it's one of the first buildings you see when you come onto Main Street. Up at the corner of Bridge and Main Street, we've got some trees that are dead. And this is, again, one of the first things people see when they turn onto Main Street. Now we go to East Main. Our first foray was West Main, and this week we went to East Main Street. This is a crumbling window frame and damaged outdoor seating. The clock's not working, and that's not a code violation, but again, it's another one of those, you know, welcome to town. Let's show that we're taking care of the things that we have.
That was John Berkeley's, I think.
It sure was. Yeah.
So, yeah, we've tried to identify who owns most of these, but sometimes we can't figure it out. 122 East Main, we've got rotting and chipping window frames. 140 rotting East Main, molding awnings. 142 East Main, the rotting window frames and chipping paint. 135 East Main, missing shutters, chipping paint. This is 155 East Main, and I guess they had a railing here that they took out. They've got bolts that are sticking out of the ground, which is a safety hazard. And, the business next door has noted that people are tripping over this exposed granite, edging that's now sticking up out of the ground because it doesn't have a railing. So that is a safety hazard. 110 North Street. And this happens to be the Elkton Alliance building, but the doors in the back are rotting away and the windows are in very bad shape. And I noted in the codes that all the windows on a building are supposed to be openable, and none of the windows are able to open at the Elkton Alliance building. Now, Wig Alley, this is what I was told this is called, but it's the alleyway between Cecil Bank and PNC Bank. This is in pretty bad shape. It's an eyesore. We have no clue who owns this property. We've been told Town of Elkton, Dave Willis owns Cecil Bank. It's maybe PNC owns it, but the masonry is crumbling now. Cecil Bank did some landscaping in there. They planted some flowers and things, and it looks very nice in the areas of the beds that they, put that in. But with the crumbling masonry, the rotting benches, there are nails sticking up out of some of the benches. It's in really bad shape. And this could be a nice area for people from the hospital to come and have lunch or something. And I know, we were talking possibly a camera there to alleviate issues of, loitering by people that are not enjoying the space, so to speak.
Did you mark down camera on there? Because I can't see.
I did not put a camera on there, but that was something that we discussed a little late when we were walking around.
I would say we've been recently trying to find out who owns that section through there. And I did speak with Dave Willis Jr. about his side. And he said to me that they just surveyed it, and I took a look at it when I went by there yesterday, and it looks like it splits it right down the middle. So I think one of the understandings that we kind of had was that was Wig Street was like a town-owned street, but when they did that, I vaguely remember back in, listen, my memory's not that good, but I do vaguely remember former Mayor Kraus talking about it was a joint venture between PNC and Cecil Bank, and we thought that was deeded to them, but we can't find where it was deeded to them. But if you look at the survey that they just did with the yellow lines, it splits it right down the middle. So I'm sure that we're going to find out that maybe PNC has the other half. Let's kind of hope, really.
Okay, well, again, it's something that.
And the PNC building is under contract, but I can't go any further.
Well, it's an eyesore that hopefully we can get taken care of, because and not so much an eyesore as it is safety hazards. There's safety hazards all through there with the, nails and bolts and exposed, crumbling brick, things like that. So that was why we noted that. So our next steps, as members of the Elkton Alliance Inc. Design Committee, we would like to collaborate with Town of Elkton team members to prioritize items listed in this report. And we, wonder what your input is on that.
Jean Minner, you have a question back there?
Each year, the Elkton Alliance applies for the facade grant funds to help folks with their facade. Could you send direct mailings out to those folks regarding that? I know that, I think Alicia was looking for people to.
I walk around town to do that.
Okay.
We've done that, yeah. We walk around town to give, the information out to all the business and building owners, and we have them coming back to us now.
Okay.
You have
So-
what,
We have the applications due to us, by Friday
Oh,
for the upcoming facade grant.
but do you also have people who don't respond at all?
Yeah,
So it's owners like that that I think we need to have plan B for sure, on, enforcement.
Well, it's enforcement with all, not just those.
Well, true, that's true, but I mean, if if you have an owner who says, look, I know this has to be done, and I want to apply for the grant, this is my game plan,
Right.
That's certainly a win.
Could you get someone to give an estimate on all those areas of blight and then use the facade money as a collective downtown grant if you got permission from the property owners to do the work?
Well, I will say that we typically get $50,000 for the facade grant money. That's not going to go very far.
And also it's a 50-50. The owner has to put up 50% of the cost of the improvements.
Okay.
Right. And what we're asking is that there's also some code enforcement going on, because obviously all of these issues are there. There are codes that we cited, and that needs to be, liens, fines. I don't know how all of that works, but we want to help out in any way we can, but it's the onus is on it, on code enforcement.
I think you did a great job bringing that to we go by it all the time. Everyone in this room goes by it. But if you're not really walking, as Gene said the other day, you don't really see, you can't see it going 20 miles an hour, right? But when you're walking as a visitor coming through our town, you can see these things. And I know that the right person to work with would be Chip, and I know he's on the line. And I'm sure that they've already sent a lot of these letters out to these folks. But I think that would be the best meeting that we could do, is maybe coordinate a meeting with our code officials with the Elkton Alliance, and let's continue to work down this.
And that being said, what we have is we're excited about the commitment from the board, which mirrors that of our committee, to support the community's transformation by assisting in the enhancement of the physical and visual elements of downtown, while capitalizing on the unique assets that set the commercial district apart. And with your permission, we'd like to leave each of you with this letter of support as we move forward.
And I'll say, Mayor and Commissioners, that the Alliance is certainly here to do all that we can, but we don't have the power behind us. We're not the town officials. And so we can go knocking on doors and tell them they need to replace awnings and clean awnings and replace railings. But unfortunately, without that enforcement behind it, we're not going to get very far.
Very good. John, can you look at this letter for us? It looks just like it's a commitment letter of support. So I think it's something we can do, but I'm very happy to get behind.
The Alliance buildings, so how much are you using? Because that building extends deeply from the front to the back, and towards the back, there's some upstairs area, and not only that, the town, you have their own using that when the town of Elkton offers the town. So how much of that do you use? Storage or anything?
Right now, we're using a little bit of it for storage, but that entire upstairs and I think actually Public Works has a Christmas, our Christmas tree back there and things like that, but the upstairs area is not being used at all. And yeah, there was a study for, turning that into an incubator space or something. And I guess he would know more what happened with that.
So there was if you recall, there was a feasibility study for an adaptive use of that building. The proposal offered 3 different types of uses for the space, and the board selected was sort of a coffee shop restaurant use, and the cost estimate to do that, to make that change to the building, was about $2 million.
And that was a number of years ago too. So.
And that was something
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you'd like me to apply to community legacy.
Yes.
Give us $2 million for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll need an updated cost estimate.
Okay, we've got MTA, we've got Sidte Hassan Hader with the WSP, the train station 30% design. Are you on
Yes, I'm here.
meeting? Hey, welcome guys. Thanks for coming and sharing this with us today. Thank you. We're excited about this train station.
I'm just gonna share my screen and okay. And let me know when you can see the screen.
We've got full screen.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, respected mayor and commissioners and member of the public. Thank you for the opportunity for us to come here and present. I'm here representing MTA with Rick Kegel, and I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself too. So just a quick overview of the project. So in 2022, the Maryland General Assembly passed a bill that required MTA to complete 30% design documents on a new marked Elkton station. We completed a site alternative study to identify what would be a preferred location for this site. And in close coordination with the town, a downtown location was selected. It's adjacent to existing medical center and has parking available for the riders, and also it's right along the Amtrak right of way to put the platforms there. In terms of the coordination that we have had since the planning study and also the design documents, we have consulted with Amtrak, the town of Elkton, and the MPO MAPCO. And MTA also completed a ridership modeling as part of the Closing the Gap, which is essentially extending the MARC Penn Line service into Delaware, and Elkton would be a stop on that. The models showed us on average 30 to 50 weekday boardings for 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. trains. And I'll pass it on to Rick to first introduce himself and then provide an overview of the 30% design project.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Sipte. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rick Kegel. I am the project manager, lead engineer for the 15 and 30% design work. Sipte was responsible for the alternative study that is the first bullet here, completed in March of 23. And as he mentioned, MTA identified Elkton as the preferred location. There were a number of other sites evaluated up and down the corridor as far as north as the Delaware line and possibly another mile or two south of Elkton. But ultimately, the decision was to design and proceed with a station location in Elkton between North Bridge Street and North Street. So in the 15% design concept, we actually evaluated two different concepts. Essentially, the only difference between the two is the station parking lot layout, because we had a limited site space and knew we wanted the station in that general location. So once we concluded on one concept number one, and I'll show you that in just a second, we proceeded to 30% design, which is where we are now. We're about ready to wrap that up. So Sipte, if you'll go to the next slide for me. And so what we'd like to do then is I'd like to give you a bit of an overview of the site. As you know, North Bridge Street is there on the north or on the top of the view, Railroad Avenue to your left. That in the corner is the Napa Auto Parts building. And obviously you're all aware of that site. Currently it's just a big grass open field. So the idea for us was to maximize usage on that site. First, let me point out the bus loop on the northern portion. Hang on, Sipte, give me just a minute. I will get to those. So I wanted to give a sort of broad overview of the site layout so that you can understand what we're talking about more broadly. But the red loop you see at the bottom is a bus loop. It's designed to allow buses not to interact with pedestrians, either coming from the parking lot or on the sidewalks crossing to the station location. The bus loop has a two-way segment. Primarily, it operates in a counterclockwise direction, except for the two-way segment there adjacent to the hospital parking lot, and that is primarily for access to the Delmarva power facility there on the right up against the tracks. The idea overall then was to maximize parking on the site. And as you can see, we've done that to the best degree we can. Concept one has the parking aisles in a north-south configuration that allows for a more direct walk path for people who from the parking lot over to the platform itself. The platform at this point is designed as an interim platform. Essentially, there are 3 tracks on Amtrak's right-of-way today. Their ultimate plan would be to have 4 tracks with Amtrak operating on the 2 outside tracks and local operations on the 2 middle tracks. To do that, that would warrant some realignment of one of the tracks and ultimately construction of a 4th track through that area, which Amtrak is not ready to do. And so we are looking at this point to develop an interim platform as shown on this image, which would be a low-level platform. And then at such time that Amtrak decides to advance their rail alignment changes, we would look to build a more permanent platform, high-level boarding with a pedestrian bridge crossing into that center platform area. So I'd like to then show some details specifically to the site. So Sipte, I see you've got the arrows set up for us here. So the current layout calls for 70 standard spaces. That maximizes the lot to the greatest extent possible. There are 4 ADA van parking spaces with direct access to the sidewalk via a ramp and then access onto the platform. There are 5 electric vehicle charging stations, and I'll talk about the solar in just a second. And there are 5 motorcycle spaces as well there on the end. In terms of canopies, there are 3, generally speaking, 3 canopy areas. First is the solar canopy over the lot. And if you can see, there's a red dash sort of around those 2 parking aisles. There would be 2 solar canopies on either of those aisles. In addition to that, on the bus boarding area, there are 2 set up right now with 2 boarding areas for transit. And then the area just to the left of that, along that straight curb line, is an area we've reserved for like charter buses, or if a school wants to pull in there, school bus wants to pull in there to take kids to Mark for, say, a trip to Washington, D.C. or something along those lines. They wouldn't impact the transit scheduled service boarding areas, and then they would be able to use that last curb segment there as well. And so the boarding areas would have a canopy that would extend from the far boarding area to the left all the way into the past the ticket vending machines and onto the platform itself. So that would be fully covered, and we'll show you those canopies in the images in a bit. And then the third platform, third area is a canopy over the platform. There you go. Thanks, Sipte. Which would cover the majority of the platform itself. There's a number of ADA compliant facilities. First, there are crosswalks at each of the entrances, one for the bus loop and one for general traffic. And then there's the curb ramps for the ADA access from those handicapped spaces onto the sidewalk and ultimately onto the platform. We currently have 2 bike racks planned for the site, and they're as shown with the arrow there. And then because this is a low-level platform in an interim design condition, there's a need for a lift to raise wheelchairs and other disabled passengers up to the level of the train floor. So that will be on the platform and available to the conductor when it's needed. As I mentioned, there's a dedicated bus loop. We like to keep that separate because of the interference with pedestrians, as I mentioned. That is a counterclockwise loop and should work out well for us. There are ticket vending machines on either side of the central aisle there. So fare collection will all be done prior to boarding. There's a variable message signage at the bus loop and on the platform. Cecil Transit will have the option to include their next bus technology or next bus information on that message board. And then the same thing applies for the MARC platform, variable message signage, which will tell you when the next train is arriving or leaving as well. At this point, there's a plan. MTA prefers to have the platforms gated so that you can at least control access to the platform, which means access to the tracks, when there's no, or in off hours, when there's no transit or train operations anticipated through there. So there's a secure gate at the secondary access point and one again at the main entrance. And those will be, they're not electronic at all. We anticipate those will be spring-loaded, and so they'll remain closed, and people will then just be able to swing the gates open if they need to get through there. But generally speaking, again, the idea is to give people the impression that they shouldn't be on the platform unless they have a need to be there for loading of the trains, boarding of the trains. And lastly, there are 2 stormwater management facilities. The first one planned there between the bus loop and the general traffic entrance, bioretention pond there. And then the second one is a small bioswale within the bus loops. Generally speaking, the sites drain from the North Bridge on the upper right of our screen here toward the hospital in the lower left. Now I've got a number of renderings to show you. This is really what you can use to visualize what we're anticipating for the site. The first one is the entrance from the parking lot itself off of Railroad Avenue. You can see the main entrance here for general traffic as well as the bus loop on the right there. Moving up toward the platform itself, the buses waiting there, the transit buses, and its boarding area covered with a canopy. On the left is the solar panel coverage over the parking. And as you can see, it's a fully covered access from the bus loading area to the platform itself. Looking east now, north on the tracks or in the east direction by compass, there are 2 basically wing canopies that serve to cover the ticket vending machine areas. The one on the far side essentially could be extended at some future point to provide access to the new full level station when it gets built. Now we're looking at the bus loop here, and as you can see again, the solar canopies over the parking as well as the canopies over the bus loading area. And again, now looking from the east toward the west, you can see all the canopies as well as the bike rack. And I think this is the last image we've got, the bus loop looking north. Primarily, you see the canopy on the platform itself, the bus canopy for that coverage there. And as I mentioned, those ticket vending machines there directly at the center of the image are covered with that canopy. But the intent is ultimately we expect the full station at such time when it gets built to be to the right here. So that parking is designed to accommodate both this interim station as well as whatever ultimately would get built in this area. And then access to that station and to that center platform in the future would be from left to right here on this screen. Oh, I'm sorry, one more picture here. This is basically standing where the charter buses would drop people off and then provide that walk over to the platform itself. We're on the platform here looking east. And then the next one is looking west. And as you can see, there's canopy coverage, there's bus information panel, display sign, as well as benches for those who wait for the passengers. This platform would serve both northbound D boarding as well as southbound boarding for all passengers. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sipte for next steps.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for providing that overview, Rick. So in terms of next step, MTA had a legislative mandate to complete 30% design, and that's what we presented on. And we are right now through the MARC growth and transformation plan, which is essentially looking at the long-term vision for MARC service on all 3 lines, including the MARC Penn line. We are looking at the service extension to Delaware, which would also include providing service at Elkton. And the plan would really determine the investment program and the funding that's required to provide that expansion on the MARC Penn line, including providing service at the future Elkton station. As part of that Closing the Gap initiative, we continue to coordinate with Amtrak on the pilot service to Delaware. That would include 2 morning and 2 evening trains, as it was directed in a similar bill about a mandate to provide that pilot service. So that's where we are. I think we would, with the growth and transformation plan sort of outlining some of those service expansion programs, we would determine what the future service will look like at Elkton. And we're happy to take any questions at this point.
Thank you, Sipte. Is there any questions from anyone from the board?
Who owns or what happens to that current little building in the train?
It's owned by Union Hospital, that property.
You know, she's talking about the existing Amtrak building.
Oh, no,
It's owned by Amtrak.
the existing train station on Bow Street. The
The existing,
Oh, that's Amtrak.
yeah, it's owned by Amtrak. No, I don't think they gave permission. That's why it had to go a different direction.
That's correct.
Gene, you have a comment?
Yes, Sipte, is there anything the town should be doing to encourage this to move forward?
I'm sorry.
I think at this point, we are looking sort of like through the growth and transformation plan. So when there's an opportunity to like comment and provide feedback, I think that's where we would be looking at the town to share that input. And other than that, I think it's gathering support for the project. I think generally is something that I would say. But I think the transformation plan really sort of like provides the framework for what the future steps will look like. And we would love your, like support and feedback as those are released.
What about acquisition of that property for the train station? Should that be, we move on that?
So I think as it was discussed, and Rick, please chime in if I'm missing anything there. The issue with that is because there's NEPA evaluation that's part of any infrastructure project. We cannot buy that property before the NEPA evaluation is completed, with the intention that this property can be used for a future station. That property can, the town or like any entity can buy that property to use for something else. And then in the future, like if there's an opportunity to convert that for the station, that's there. But as part of the NEPA regulation, the federal requirements don't allow to buy a property with the intention that you're going to be using it for the station before that NEPA documentation is complete.
Yes, and I would add too that once the project gets approval to move forward, that would be one of the first steps to complete the NEPA process. At that time, then there would be an interest in preserving that property for the advancement and for placement of the project.
Could we share this PowerPoint presentation with Union Hospital to make them aware of it? I know that they're interested in the train station also.
Rick, I was just going to say, we might have to check with MTA, right? If they're comfortable sharing that with the hospital.
But I would add too that we did have conversations with the hospital before we even started the 15% design, and so they are aware that we were looking at a new station in this area. At that point, I think they were considering putting that property on the market, but it's apparent that hasn't happened over the last year.
They did have it on the market, and they did have someone interested in acquiring the property. And recently they asked us about the status of the study. I think they didn't want to move forward with selling the property until they knew what was happening with the study.
All right. Well, and as Sipte noted, with the NEPA process, we can't direct the town, nor can we advance on that property acquisition until the NEPA is completed, because it predetermines a station location, and the NEPA process is intended to evaluate a variety of options.
Okay, I just thought that this was the preferred option.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Guys, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and we can't wait until we get to 100%.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have discussion on well number 3. Come on down, KCI.
Okay, consulting 101, that'll be the reason why the mayor misses his flight.
That's right.
So we'll move pretty swiftly here, but very informal. Always feel free to chime in and ask questions along the way.
Okay.
You don't need to wait until our quick presentation to wrap up. We did put together a few slides. We want to tell the overall general big picture. But the goal of the presentation is for us to spawn good follow-up discussions, Q&A, and take the discussion in whatever direction the board wants to take it in. Another trend that I want to make sure to mention up front is there's several different ways you can parse these options in terms of how you look at them. I choose to look at them as you could realize more water from your existing wells, basically get more out of what you already have. You can drill new wells, and you can also purchase more water from artesian. It can be a combination thereof of all three of them. All of the options, whatever one is chosen, does come with its own set of challenges. If there was a obvious perfect solution path moving forward, we wouldn't even be looking at multiple options. But one of the lessons learned on our end is that whatever options we go down, if and when we do hit hurdles, especially from a regulatory standpoint, those hurdles are usually not as insurmountable as they first appear to be. And so I want to make sure whatever option the town goes, if we're going to make our recommendations, but whatever option the town decides, we're definitely here to help see you through it. We're used to being told no at the county and state level, and so far we've learned that a little pushback to help them see the forest and the trees that's going on. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to the intelligent half of our duo here, and Leisha's going to dive into some details, and I'll chime in with you.
Great. Thanks for Brian for the introduction. My name is Leisha. I'm with KCI. So here is a map showing the projected future demands in the town. It's a little smaller here, but we hand out you guys have the handouts and you can look at the details. But basically, just with the future projected developments highlighted throughout the town area for both commercial and residential. And you can see the majority of the future developments are in the south area of the town, and some on the east side. And the next slide. And we projected the water demand from those proposed developments. And in that demand, on top of the average water supply from last year, and we have a total projected future demand of 2.9 million gallons per day. Currently, the town has 5 wells and 1 water treatment plant, and they pull the water from the groundwater and the surface water, and NP regulates the permitted withdrawal. And currently, the total permitted withdrawal amount is 2.7 million gallons per day. And you can see there's a shortage of approximately 0.2 million gallons per day. Looking ahead. Yeah. And actually, I'm going to go back to one slide. So the town has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wells. And from this map, you can see they're all in the south area, south of the Route 40. And there's the reason for that. And I'll explain in the next couple of slides. This is the geological cross-section near Elkton and from the northwest direction to the southeast direction. And it shows the cross-section of the earth on the ground. And this is the Potomac Group aquifers, and all the town's wells, they're currently withdraw water from the lower Potomac aquifer. And the aquifer is a layer, is filled with sand, with the saturated water, and with some other layers on top and about and below it. With this direction from the northwest to the southeast, and you can see this aquifer becomes thicker. And generally, the thicker the aquifer, the sand, there's a better opportunity to get a higher yield. And next slide, please. And here is another visual shows the lower Potomac aquifer from the northeast, northwest is kind of more thinner. The sand thickness is smaller, and on the southeast direction it gets thicker. That means like the further southeast, the potentially a higher yield of the well drilled in that area can be achieved. And it shows like Elkton is right there.
Is that in feet? 1 to 80 feet, 81 to 160 feet? Okay.
Thickness of the sand.
Yeah, that's the thickness. I'm actually not sure about the, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and the next one. This, we come back to the previous map, but this one, we actually have a delineated area, and that is that comes from our senior hydrologist, Justin, and he has been studying the area for the past 15, 20 years and involved with the previous well testing and drilling, like well 4, well 2, or well 5. So this is the expected well yield, like delineate in different area. This is Route 40. So this southern area is bounded by the Route 40 and the Whitehall Road in general. And that is the southeast area that can provide a higher yield, and the anticipated yield is from 100,000 gallon per day to up to 500,000 gallon per day, and even up. And in this area, it's between this line and the pretty much the main street. But there's also a boundary here, and this area, that's where the well currently well 1, well 5, well 2R, and 1R and 2R are located. And this expected well yield is up to 100,000 gallons per day. In this area, it's a Great Hills area. That area has like a higher bedrock, so it's an area considered not suitable for well drilling. And right now we have the town has well 4 and well 5 in the southeast area, and then those are the 2 largest wells.
You mean well 3, right?
Yeah, well 3, sorry, well 3 and well 4.
5. Oh, 4. Okay.
And in the past, we have discussed several different locations for the potentially new well. And we previously talked about a well located along Frenchtown Road and just on the north. And the other is we talked about having a well located next to the water treatment plant. And we also talked about well 3 site. And potentially either increase the yield or maybe another new well there. And next one. And we'll touch on the each site individually. This is the site north of the Frenchtown Road. And that site potentially in the area that can give you the potentially high yield with a new well. The town owns this parcel, but it's currently under a conservation easement that is regulated by Maryland Environmental Trust. And that easement restricts structures or any other improvements on the site. But we communicate with MEP, and they said the town can request and apply for exceptions from them by providing compelling argument on how the additional water source from a public well on this site that is needed to enhance the public health and safety. This is the I forgot to mention that the purple hatch there are the protected land, and the yellow area highlighted area, those are the land is mainly owned by the town, but some of the small area owned by the county. And this is the water treatment plant that purple dot. And and the town, there's a park south of that, and the town owns a large piece of the land here. This is in the area that on that delineated map, it's in the area that had the potential to provide a well yield of up to 100,000 gallons per day. It's not a large amount, but it can be a supplement supply to the water treatment plant, especially during the rainstorm event that could cause a higher turbidity issue, or during the drought season, there's like a withdrawal, surface water withdrawal restriction posted by the state.
Just to give you a feel for the scale, these you mentioned earlier that we have a 0.2 delta in terms of we're 0.2 million gallons behind in terms of how much water you need in the future versus how much you can currently withdraw. So 0.2 MGD is twice of 100,000. So this well, if we put it there, even though it's not ideal in terms of the total capacity compared to down in the southeast, it will get you halfway where you need to be.
The third location is a existing well 3 site. The well was constructed in the 1960s, and it's a pretty old well, and it's in the rehabilitation and upgrades, and we're actually also right now we're looking at the design of this upgrade. And this is in the area that can potentially give you higher yield, and the well 3 is permitted for 500,000 gallon per day withdrawal. Can even more potentially, yes, and that can be tested to verify either from the existing well or could be a new test well on the same site. And the option could be if the test well shows that there's more capacity that can have more water withdrawal from the site, and then either we can be a MD application for the appropriation amount increase, or it could be another option, install a new well on the same site if the existing condition is kind of it's better to be replaced by a new one. Right, next slide. Here is the procedure for the sending the application to MDE. And in the handout, the second page is the two side pages, the application form for the appropriation increase, either for a new well or existing well, if the amount is increased exceeds the 10,000 gallons per day. The same form can be used for both purposes, and the application can start with submit the form, the field form with the background memo briefly summarizing the background and the water system description and need for the additional water supply to the town system and showing the proposed well location. And we will first perform a preliminary analysis, review. And usually the turnaround time is 30 days. They will, return back with a package with the list of requested information for further evaluation. After passing the preliminary review, then they will require a hydrological evaluation be conducted. That typically involve a 24-hour well test, just to show the limit of the supply capacity. That after they have the report and then review and the entire area and then evaluate the impact to the surrounding wells, and in the area, and that from our communication with MDE, it typically takes approximately 8 months. And then, after all those evaluations, it goes through MDE and they will have a draft permit ready, and that comes to the time they will coordinate with the DARAT, because the wells on the Delaware side also shares the same aquifer, including the 2 wells from Artesian. And they will ask for direct comment, and that's a mutual process between MD and DARAT for the proposed wells close to the state line. So that's a explanation of the areas and how that explain the map why the southeast areas gives you substantially higher yield. And I'll pass it on to Ryan.
So a couple of things here in closing. This has been an ongoing, very important conversation that we've been having with the town for a while. A lot of our conversations have been with Dan and Mark directly in Lewis, so we really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone about different options that we have moving forward. We wanted to do a deeper dive here because, you know, you can hear that there's an application process from MDE to get more water out of your well or do a new well, and it takes 18 months, and it sounds like there's really heavy lift. So we just wanted to see it's a 2-page application. It's not much to get the ball rolling right away. And also, there are always going to be hurdles. Legia mentioned a very favorable site from a hydrogeologic standpoint, but it's a protected area, and MET has an easement there. And so I like Legia's term. You know, if we can make a valid argument to get an exception, then we could potentially drill a new well there. That's a very favorable position. So our recommendation would be, yes, let's apply for that exemption. Let's ask them to drill the well on a site that you already own, and that shows that it can have very favorable results. I think it's worth to make those efforts, even if initially, you know, somebody's looking at a checklist and they say there's an issue, or even if they say no initially. I think we can do a good job of having them see the forest for the trees, because you're trying to do the right thing. You're looking proactively and you're trying to make sure that you have water for your existing and future customers. So as long as we keep doing the right thing, I think the results that we get will be good no matter what direction we head down. But we are recommending that we do look into getting more well to well 3. Legia's right, it's a very old well, hasn't been there. I mean, it needs a new building anyway. It's been around for a long time, so it is currently in the works for PFAS upgrades anyway. And so it's the right time to look at increasing the yield while there's already going to be a contractor out there and we're already going to be working on it. And we do want to look at the southeast area as well. We should submit for the exception to MET. Again, just our recommendation, because it's good to know what options we have. It's a favorable site. I know it's frustrating coming from an engineer, but everyone I've talked to, the experts in hydrogeology, all say the same thing. It is more of an art than a science. That map that shows where we should get yields, it is not a slam dunk, and it's The more what test wells we drill, the better. The hydrogeologist recommended drilling 3 test wells actually on the same site because even those results will be different. And so please just understand it's not an exact science. But the more options we have, the more options we look at, the more likely you are to get good results, right? And then just a note moving forward, this is something we've been implementing elsewhere as well. When you do have new developments coming into the town, new projects, if it is in that favorable southeast portion of town, my experience, developers are very open-minded to having us look at their site, carve out a little bit. It's not a really big footprint for them, but carve out a little bit of room to put a potential well there and have the rain turned over to the tenant. So, might be a good talking point if they're getting a good deal coming to town and they're getting their facilities waived. If that ends up getting in the way, it could be a good way for them to get back to the town in terms of providing more water. So that's it. That's our presentation. I know we're up against it, but more than happy to answer any questions now or future discussions.
Lou, what do we need to do? Can we follow their recommendations and get it rolling? Do you see any obstacles?
Well, the only issue I have with well 3 additional appropriation is the fact that KCI is already at 30% design for the well house and the PFAS removal through Calgon process. So I don't know if we apply for additional flow, if we can get it, how that'll affect that design. Will that delay that design?
I can speak on that, Louis. We did the designs for these PFAS towers, these GAC units. They're modular, and so we needed to go with 2 towers anyway, and that tower has enough extra capacity in it. So the PFAS design that's 30% through would not need to change courses if we look for more water because it can handle more water. Especially because the total peak flow that we would be pulling from well number 3 doesn't have to change that much. We can just run the pumps longer. So that doesn't impact the design of the square footage of the activated carbon that moves the PFAS.
That's good news. Mark, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'd sent an email out about different locations probably.
Yeah.
But I seen from your thing that some of them were out of, it wouldn't work. But I like the idea of trying to get more water to the town of ourselves instead of one.
And also a quick question, just as you know, as you're saying, the PFAS filtration process and so forth, on the other side of that, what we're involved in, would this affect any of that?
Only in that if we do go down the path of having a project at well 3 that achieves both goals of removing the PFAS and increasing the yield. In terms of the way the funding works out, the different buckets of money that are contributing to the project, we would just want to make sure with the bid items to clearly separate the PFAS treatment aspects away from the extra yield, just to make sure it's clear to everyone where that PFAS comes from.
Do you need a permit then to do test wells over in the red area?
Yes, and so far they've been very straightforward and not difficult. Yeah, it's more about having access to the land, but you've already owned it. Yeah.
Ryan, if the test, or I'm gonna say potential test well, if it was heading a little bit west of our property onto that developer's property in the blue, would that be okay to test there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, this is a great visual because you can kind of see that anything southeast of this line here, the way the aquifer is structured, this is all good opportunity.
And it looks like there's a good opportunity. Earl, that's your property right there. You may have a gold mine. You might check into that problem. All right.
Remember, I said more art than science.
Yeah, that's
I've
right.
learned the hard way. You can't rely on big picture aquifer.
Well, listen, I think everyone up here and I think everyone is on board with staff that we want to try to pull more water from our wells and new opportunities for wells. And when you look at the long term, we're about 200,000 gallons short of reaching our number. And, you know, that's with all that growth. That's not too bad, really. We're not in all that bad a shape. I know we're always going to have the interconnect because of the 20% or 25% reserve number that we needed to have. But I think this is a great move. Anyone have any other questions or comments? I'm
Yeah,
pushing,
thank you.
I'm pushing everyone out.
I'm
Thank
tipping.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know there's been a ton of questions, so if there's ever any more, just feel free to.
Thank you. There's, one other thing I wanted to mention real quick, and I'm gonna, Gene, before you leave, Gene Minner and I met with, some folks from a SAS flood prediction solution. Was it yesterday or yesterday? It was an interesting meeting that we had, and, they're gonna create a model for us. They're taking all the data from previous floods that we've had in Elkton, and they're gonna be able to create little areas based on, it's like a Doppler radar, they tried to explain to me. And, I know Lewis uses a point on the Big Elk Creek that when he sees it gets high.
Yeah, USGS site.
So they were saying that there could be ways that we could monitor to allow our residents to know that Delaware Avenue is gonna be shutting down in 15 minutes, right? Warning system. So it's kind of unique what they were bringing to the table. Am I missing something, or is that?
Early warning system.
It was pretty unique, and the guy there, of course, we're trying to get it grant funded, of course, and be kind of unique if we could. Anyone have anything to say? Anyone in the audience have anything to say? Anyone on Zoom meeting have anything to say? Goodbye. Meeting adjourned.